My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 29. My parents told everyone they took my college fund for the family. What they really took was my future and dressed it up as sacrifice. I didn't realize it all at once. It came apart quietly, in my apartment kitchen, with my laptop open and a mug going cold by my elbow. I was trying to set up a payment plan for a certification my job wanted me to have. The numbers on my screen didn't line up with the story I'd been told since I was 18. I'd always believed the fund was still there. Paused. Waiting. That was the word my mom used. Paused, like a movie you could just press play on again. I opened my bank app. I checked the savings history. I scrolled back farther than I usually did. The balance dipped in a way I couldn't explain. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was misreading it. My phone buzzed on the counter. A text from my mom. Call me later. I had been the easy one my whole life. The daughter who didn't ask for much. The one who covered small gaps without making it a thing. I picked up extra shifts in college. I paid my own rent after. I sent money when my dad said things were tight and promised he'd square it later. Normal, for me, looked like that. Logging into accounts. Saying yes. Keeping receipts just in case, but never pulling them out. At work, I'm a compliance analyst at a credit union. My days are clean lines and documented trails. I know what numbers look like when they're telling the truth. I also know what they look like when they're trying not to. That afternoon, between meetings, I requested the old 529 statements. It was a simple form. Name, account number, reason. I clicked submit and felt ridiculous for caring this much. The confirmation email landed in my inbox before I could talk myself out of it. I printed it. The printer in our office always runs hot. The paper came out warm, and I folded it once and slid it into a manila folder I didn't remember deciding to start. On my drive home, my mom called. I put her on speaker and set the phone in the cup holder. We did what we had to do, she said before I asked anything. It was for the family. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. I'm not accusing, I said. I just need to understand what's there. A pause. Road noise filled it. Why dig this up now? She asked. After everything we've done for you. I watched a car merge too close in front of me and eased back. I didn't answer. Silence has always been my way of keeping things from getting worse. When I got home, I set the folder on the table next to my keys. It looked too official for my small kitchen, like something that belonged to someone braver. Later that night, another email came through. The first statement. I spread it out on the table. One page. Then another. Dates ran down the left side in neat rows. Withdrawals in chunks. Not paused. Drained. The notes on the transfers were bland. Utility. Auto. MISC. I traced a line with my finger and felt my throat tighten. These weren't emergencies. They were ordinary. They were bills. Comfort. Routine. I thought about the stories I'd been told. The time my mom cried about keeping the lights on. The way my dad said, "We'll make it right." The way my brother Evan always managed to land on his feet no matter what mess he made. I added the pages to the folder. The stack was thin, but it carried weight. The next morning at work, I kept my head down. I did my job. I noticed how often people avoid eye contact when they don't want questions. I noticed how easy it is to let procedures do the talking for you. During lunch, I pulled up old emails on my phone. I searched my own name with the word school. A thread popped up from years ago. Temporary loan for the family. I hadn't remembered agreeing to anything. Reading it now, I saw how careful the language was. No numbers. No dates. Just trust. My best friend Tara texted me a coffee cup emoji and a question mark. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. That evening, my dad emailed me. No greeting. No sign-off. The subject line was short. Stop digging. I didn't reply to my dad's email. I let it sit there, unread, like a stain you pretend isn't on the wall. The next morning, I met Tara at a coffee shop near my office. It was loud enough that we had to lean in. The espresso machine screamed every few minutes. My hands shook when I wrapped them around the cup. I slid the folder halfway out of my tote bag. Okay, she said. Show me. I laid the statements flat on the small round table. The corners curled where I'd folded them too tightly. Tara didn't touch them at first. She just read. That's not paused. she said finally. That's gone. I know. She looked up at me. What did they say it was for? For the family. She snorted before she could stop herself. That's not a category. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Years of threads collapsed into a few lines. I scrolled, then stopped. There it was. Temporary loan for the family. I'd been 20 and desperate not to cause problems. I forwarded it to Tara. She read it twice. They never promised to pay it back, she said. They implied it. That's how they get you. I stared at the foam sinking into my coffee. The shop smelled like burnt sugar and milk. I felt stupid for how familiar this all felt. On my walk back to the office, I called the financial aid office at my old college. I put in earbuds and paced the sidewalk while cars rolled past. Hi, I said when someone picked up. I'm trying to reconcile some records from a few years ago. The man on the line sounded young. Polita. Procedural. I can tell you what's on file, he said. I can't interpret intent. That's fine. He asked for my name, my date of birth. A pause while he typed. There were distributions from a 529 plan that year, he said. They're marked as parent requested. I stopped walking. Were they applied to tuition? No, he said. There's no matching payment in that window. Who signed the request forms? I asked. Looks like a parent signature, he said. Not yours. I thanked him and hung up. I stood there longer than I meant to, watching the walk signal flip back and forth. Back at my desk, I opened a spreadsheet. I told myself it was just to understand. Dates in one column, amounts in another, notes copied exactly as written. Patterns started to appear. Withdrawals clustered around certain weeks. One lined up with the month my parents bought a new car. Another fell during a summer when they'd sent me photos from a beach I'd never been to. I added tabs, labeled them by month. When I printed it, the paper felt heavier than it should have. That afternoon, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. You're making a mistake. I didn't call back. Instead, I drove to the strip mall bank branch where my parents had always gone. The parking lot was half full. A woman loaded groceries into her trunk. A kid kicked at a loose pebble. Inside, I asked for historical records. The teller nodded and disappeared. When she came back, she slid a page across the counter. One transfer caught my eye. The account number ended in digits I didn't recognize. I pointed. Who does this belong to? She frowned. I can't tell you that. Is it one of my parents? She checked again. No. I thanked her and stepped back into the sun. The folder was thicker now. The tabs stuck out like accusations. On the drive home, my brother Evan called. I almost didn't answer. What's going on? He asked, like we were catching up. Mom's upset. I'm looking at my college fund, I said. A beat. Why? Because it's gone. Another pause. I could hear a TV in the background. A laugh track. You know why we needed it, he said, too quickly. Don't make this weird. I pulled over and turned off the engine. Whose account is it? I asked. Silence stretched. Long enough to feel intentional. Dad said to tell you to stop, Evan said. Just stop. The call ended. My phone stayed dark in my hand. When I got home, I added one more tab to the spreadsheet and labeled it unknown. I went to my parents' house the next evening. I told myself it was for clarity, not confrontation. Their living room still smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. The same framed photos. The same couch cushions I'd learned to sit on carefully, so no one could say I was being dramatic. My mom hugged me too long. My dad stayed standing. I set the folder on the coffee table. The manila looked out of place against the lace runner. I just want to understand, I said. That's all. My mom sighed like I'd already heard her. We've explained this. I'm asking about specifics. My dad leaned forward and picked up the top page. He squinted at it, then set it back down like it burned. These systems make mistakes, he said. You know that. I slid one statement closer to him. A single line was highlighted. This isn't a system, I said. It's a transfer. My mom crossed her arms. You agreed to help. I agreed to a loan, I said. For school. Temporarily. You were young, she said. You didn't understand what things cost. I felt my jaw tighten. The room was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I pulled out my phone and opened the portal login history. Dates. Times. Locations. You logged in from here, I said. Not me. My dad waved a hand. I don't remember that. My mom's voice sharpened. Why are you doing this to us? Before I could answer, the front door opened. Evan walked in like he owned the place. He took one look at the table and laughed. Oh my God, he said. You brought paperwork. It's my money, I said. He stopped laughing. You're being selfish. I pointed to the statement with the unknown account. Whose is this? Evan glanced at my dad. Too fast. Why are you digging into stuff that doesn't concern you? My mom said. It concerns me, I said. It's my fund. Evan leaned against the wall. You know why we needed it. The words hung there. Heavy. Accidental. My dad cleared his throat. That's not what he meant. Evan's face flushed. I mean, things happen. What things? I asked. No one answered. My mom started talking about sacrifices. My dad talked about timing. They talked over each other until it all blurred together. I closed the folder. I'm going to have this reviewed, I said. My mom's eyes widened. By who? An auditor, I said. Someone neutral. My dad stood up. You will not drag strangers into our family. I already did, I said quietly. The room went still. Evan laughed again, but it sounded wrong. Good luck, he said. You're going to regret this. I picked up the folder. My hands were steadier than I expected. As I reached the door, my dad said my name. I turned. You're going to blow everything up, he said. I opened the door anyway. The email from Nina Patel came in the next morning while I was staring at my own spreadsheet like it might change if I blinked hard enough. It was a normal work email. Clean subject line. Short sentences. She asked if I could provide supporting documents for a pattern she flagged during a routine review. My stomach flipped anyway. I sat in my car in the parking lot and read it twice with both hands on the steering wheel. The sun was bright, the kind that makes you squint and feel exposed. A shopping cart clanged somewhere near the cart return. I want to be clear about something. I never used my job to snoop on my parents. I couldn't, even if I wanted to. Nina's note was about a different file, a separate issue that crossed my desk, and when she asked for documentation, she meant my documentation. The stuff I had a right to request. The statements I already held in my own folder. It was ordinary procedure offering me a door. I walked inside with my tote bag heavy against my hip. The conference room down the hall always ran cold. The long table was glossy enough to reflect the ceiling lights. Nina sat with a laptop open and a yellow legal pad beside it. She looked up when I stepped in. Claire, she said. Thank you for coming in. I placed my folder on the table. The tabs stuck out like little flags. My fingers hesitated on the edge of the cover before I opened it. I want this to be clean, I said. It will be, she replied. Only facts. She didn't sound comforting. She sounded accurate. I slid the first statement forward. Then the next. Nina didn't react the way my family had. No sighs. No outrage. No wounded face. She read. She typed. She asked me to confirm what I had requested and when. Where did you get this? She asked. The plan administrator, I said. Requested directly. I have the confirmation email. I handed it over. The paper was creased from being folded and unfolded too many times. Nina nodded and made a note. Then she turned her screen slightly so I could see the timeline she'd built. Dates lined up with my spreadsheet almost perfectly. The only difference was that she had highlighted a few clusters I hadn't focused on. These distributions, she said, tapping the screen with her pen, line up with a set of outgoing transfers that don't read like tuition. My throat tightened again, but I kept my voice even. I noticed that too. She flipped to another page in my folder and paused on one line. This one is interesting, she said. I knew which one she meant before she said it. The unknown account. The digits that didn't belong to either of my parents. I asked the bank branch, I said. They couldn't tell me. Nina looked up. They wouldn't. She pushed her chair back a little and folded her hands. If you want formal clarity, she said, you need to treat this like any other documentation matter. No side conversations. No promises. No, we'll handle it privately. I swallowed. My mouth felt dry. What happens if it's what I think it is? I asked. Nina didn't answer directly. She didn't have to. She slid a printed checklist across the table. A simple audit request list. Items with blanks next to them. I stared at the sheet. It was the kind of document I'd asked other people for 100 times. It looked harmless. It wasn't. My phone buzzed on the table. A call from my mom. I silenced it. Nina kept her eyes on the checklist. "You can provide what you have," she said. "And you can request what you're entitled to." That's it. I nodded, even though my chest felt tight. On my lunch break, I sat in my car again and filled in the checklist with my pen. I wrote neatly, like neatness could keep my hands from shaking. Then I opened my calendar and realized Sunday was coming. My mom texted an hour later. "Dinner this weekend. Let's clear the air." My treat. A second message followed before I could respond. "We'll go to that place by the shopping center. The one you like." My phone felt heavier than it should have. My mom's text sat on my screen like a dare. "We'll go to that place by the shopping center. The one you like." I stared at it in my apartment with the overhead light humming and my tote bag still on the floor. The folder was inside it, tabs pressed flat like they were trying to hide. I told myself I could go, sit, eat, and leave. I told myself I could keep it normal. Sunday evening, the parking lot was packed. Families in hoodies and church clothes. Cars circling for spots. The restaurant's sign buzzed in one corner like it needed a new bulb. Inside, it smelled like fryer oil and sweet barbecue sauce. A host in a black polo led us to a booth. My mom slid in first, smiling too wide. My dad sat across from me. Evan showed up last, already irritated, like we were inconveniencing him by existing. The server set down menus and a basket of napkins. She had a name tag that read Kim. "Sweet teas all around?" she asked. My mom smiled at her like a politician. "Yes, honey. Thank you." Kim left. My mom leaned forward. "Okay," she said, lowering her voice. "We're here. We're in public, so let's not do anything dramatic." My dad's jaw tightened. Evan stared at his phone, thumb flicking. "I didn't ask for this," I said. "You did," my mom said. "Quick. You made it a thing. You involved people." I felt the folder pressing against my leg inside my tote bag. I kept my hands on the table anyway, palms down. Still, Kim came back and set sweating glasses down. Ice clinked. She refilled my mom's water without being asked. My mom waited until Kim walked away, then spoke again. "We are your parents," she said. "We never would have hurt you." I nodded once. Not agreement, just motion. I pulled out my phone and opened Nina's checklist email. White screen, neat lines, my own notes in the margins. I angled it toward myself, but my dad's eyes tracked it immediately. "I have one question," I said. "One." Evan looked up. "Here we go." I tapped the line I'd been stuck on for days. The transfer to the account that wasn't theirs. "Whose account is this?" I asked. My mom's smile slipped. "Claire." My dad reached for his tea and didn't drink. He just held it like it gave him something to do. "That's not how this works," my mom said. "You don't interrogate us at dinner." "It's my money," I said. "This is the account it went to." My dad's voice came out low. "You don't understand." Evan huffed. "Can you stop with the spreadsheet stuff?" Kim returned and asked if we were ready to order. My mom ordered for herself without looking at the menu. My dad ordered something simple. Evan ordered quickly and added an extra side like he always did when he was nervous. I ordered last, barely tasting the words as I said them. Kim left again. My mom leaned closer, voice soft now. "You're embarrassing us." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm asking for a name." My dad stared at the booth wall for a second, then back at me. "You're taking this too far," he said. I scrolled down and read the transfer description out loud, exactly as it appeared. No emotion, just text. My mom's eyes widened like I'd sworn in church. Evan's foot started bouncing under the table. I could see it by the way the napkins trembled. "Stop," my mom said. "People can hear you." A couple at the next booth laughed a little too loudly, then went quiet. Someone behind us clinked a fork against a plate. I kept my voice even. "I'm not yelling," I said. "I'm asking." My dad's hand moved toward my phone. I pulled it back, not fast, just enough to make it clear. "No," I said. That single word felt like it changed the air. Evan leaned forward. "You're doing this to punish them." "I'm doing this to understand what happened to my fund," I said. My mom stared at me, and I saw the switch flip behind her eyes. The warm public face. The private one underneath. "You always think you're better than us," she said quietly. My throat tightened, but I didn't take the bait. I tapped the account digits again. Name, I said. My dad's mouth opened. Closed. He swallowed. Kim appeared at the edge of the table with a tray, plates balanced on her forearm. My dad finally spoke, and his voice came out like he hated the sound of it. It's in Vanessa Pike's name, he said. Kim froze for a half second, trays still in the air, like she'd walked into the wrong conversation. Kim set the plates down like she suddenly had somewhere else to be. My mom stared at my dad. Evan stared at the table. Nobody looked at me. Vanessa Pike, I repeated, just to make sure I heard it right. My dad's face had gone pale in a way that made him look older. He picked up his fork and set it down again without cutting anything. My mom found her smile again, but it didn't reach her eyes. That is not a real issue, she said. That is paperwork. Whose paperwork? I asked. Evan's knee bounced hard enough to rattle the silverware. Can we not do this with strangers listening? I glanced around. 2 booths over, a woman was pretending to read the drink menu. A little kid at the next table had gone quiet, staring at our table like it was a TV show. I took a slow breath. I'm going home, I said. My mom's voice sharpened. You are not walking out on us. I slid out of the booth anyway. My tote bag caught on the corner of the table and I had to tug it free. The folder inside thumped against my hip. My dad didn't stop me. He just watched me stand. Outside, the air was cold and smelled like exhaust and wet pavement. I sat in my car with both hands on the steering wheel and waited until my heart stopped racing. On the drive back to my apartment, my phone lit up again and again. Mom, Dad, Evan. I didn't answer. At home, I set the tote bag on the kitchen chair and pulled out the folder like I was handling something fragile. I laid it open on the table and stared at the tab that said unknown. I wrote Vanessa Pike on a sticky note and pressed it onto the page. Then I opened my laptop. This is the part people don't picture when they imagine someone standing up for herself. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was me in sweatpants, hair in a messy knot, clicking through settings with my jaw clenched. First, I opened my bank app. I found the recurring transfer I'd set up years ago, the one that sent my parents money twice a month without anyone needing to ask. It was labeled something innocent. Family. My thumb hovered over the toggle. My stomach churned like I was about to step off a ledge. I turned it off. A confirmation screen popped up. Transfer canceled. I took a screenshot and saved it to a folder on my desktop. Just a habit. Proof of the proof. Next, I removed myself from anything shared that I could control. A streaming account I'd been paying for that my parents used. A phone plan add-on my mom had insisted was easier. A little autopay that had been quietly bleeding out every month. 8DM. Cancel. Remove. Confirm. Each click felt both small and enormous. My phone started ringing again. I let it ring. The sound filled my kitchen, bounced off the cabinets, and stopped. It rang again. This time, I listened to the voicemail. My mom's voice was sweet at first. Claire, honey, call me back. Then it shifted. What you're doing is cruel. You can't just cut us off like this. I closed my eyes. She took a breath, then added, you know people call that elder abuse. My eyes snapped open. I replayed it, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Elder abuse. My parents were in their 50s. I saved the voicemail and labeled it, Mom Elder Abuse Claim. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at my own hands on the table like they belonged to someone else. Then I opened an email draft. I kept it short. I wrote that I needed a written accounting of where the 529 funds went, including the reason for any transfer to an account held by Vanessa Pike. I wrote that any repayment discussion would need to be in writing and include specific terms. I wrote one line that felt like a door closing. I will not provide any further financial support without documentation. My cursor blinked at the end of the sentence. I read it 3 times to make sure it didn't sound mean. Then I stopped trying to make it sound like something my mom would approve of. I hit send. Within minutes, my phone buzzed with a text from Evan. You really want to do this? You're gonna make Mom sick. Another text. Tell me you didn't cancel the transfers. I didn't answer. A minute later, another one came in. If you keep this up, I'll tell everyone you stole money from them. I'll make sure the whole family knows. My fingers went cold. I set the phone down like it might sting me. I walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot below. Someone carried groceries up the stairs. A porch light flickered on. Normal life, right outside my glass. My laptop chimed with an incoming email. From my dad. One sentence. Turn it back on. We can talk when you calm down. I stared at the screen, then at the folder on my table, the sticky note with Vanessa Pike written in my own handwriting. My phone rang again. A different number this time. I answered before I could talk myself out of it. Claire? A woman's voice said. It's Aunt Sheila. I didn't speak. She kept going, like she'd practiced. Your mother says you're punishing them and taking money that isn't yours. Hi, Aunt Sheila, I said, and my voice came out flatter than I meant it to. On the other end, she took a breath like she was about to read something off a card. Your mother says you're punishing them, she repeated, that you're taking money that isn't yours. I looked at the sticky note on my table. Vanessa Pike, in my handwriting. The ink had bled a little where my thumb had pressed it earlier. I'm not taking anything, I said. I stopped sending extra. A pause. I could hear a TV in the background at her house, low and cheerful. Well, she said, stretching the word, your mom said you cut them off. I turned off a transfer that came from my account, I said. Aunt Sheila made a small sound that could have been sympathy or disbelief. Honey, your parents have done a lot for you. I could have argued. I could have unloaded every date and line item. Instead, I reached for the folder and opened it to the one-page summary I'd printed after meeting with Nina. The paper was smooth and too clean for what it contained. I'm not going to fight with you, I said. I can send you one page. Claire, she warned. One page, I repeated. Not a story, not drama, just a page. Silence again, and in that silence I understood something that made my stomach sink. My mom wasn't just upset. She was recruiting. Aunt Sheila sighed. Send it then. I didn't text it. I emailed it. Because I wanted a record. I took a photo of the one-page spreadsheet on my table, the tabs in the background, and attached it with a 2-line note. Here is a summary of 529 distributions and where they went based on statements requested directly from the administrator. I'm asking for documentation and repayment terms in writing. I hit send and set my phone down. It buzzed immediately. A group chat notification with a name I hadn't seen in years. Hayes family. The messages were already flying. My cousin Brett posted a praying hands gif. My aunt wrote, "We need to come together." Someone else wrote, "I heard Claire is withholding money from her parents." My chest tightened. I stared at the screen like it was a bruise forming in real time. My mom typed, "Claire is confused and taking it out on us." My dad typed, "We never took her money. She's twisting things." Evan typed next, fast and messy. "She's always been like this. She thinks she's better than everyone." I felt heat rise in my face, the familiar urge to explain everything, to write a novel in a chat bubble, to plead my way back into being believed. Instead, I placed my phone on the table beside the folder and walked to the sink. I turned on the faucet and watched water run over a clean spoon, like I had something practical to do. When I came back, there was a new message from Aunt Sheila. "It's in Vanessa Pike's name?" I stared at that line until my eyes hurt. I typed back, slowly, "Yes. That is why I asked for documentation." Brett replied a second later. "Who is Vanessa Pike?" Evan's typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. He was deciding what lie would land. Before he could, a message popped up from my cousin Megan, who married into the family and never fully bought the Hayes Act. "Vanessa Pike is the woman Evan dated when he was between jobs," she wrote. "He lived at her place for a while." My stomach dropped, but not because it was shocking, because it made too much sense. Evan responded instantly, "That's not her." Megan wrote back, "It is her. I met her at Grandma's house. Same name." My mom jumped in. This is not the place for gossip. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from something closer to clarity. The lie was cracking under plain, ordinary memory. My phone rang. "Nina." I answered and put her on speaker, the phone flat on my kitchen table. I wanted my hands free. "Claire," she said, calm as ever. "I reviewed the documents you provided. The trail is consistent." "What does that mean?" I asked, even though I knew. "It means the statements support what you summarized," she said. "If anyone challenges you, You can refer them to the documentation. Do not debate in a group chat. I glanced at the buzzing screen. More messages. More opinions. More people acting like they were entitled to a vote on my life. I already sent 1 page, I said. That's enough, Nina replied. 1 page is enough. After I hung up, I turned my phone face down and sat there with my palms on the folder, like I could keep it from sliding away. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. A delivery driver held out an envelope. Thick. Official. My parents' address printed on the front. But my name was on it too, in smaller letters, like an afterthought. The envelope sat on my kitchen table like it had its own gravity. It was thick, the kind of paper you can feel before you open it. Windowed in the corner. A return address with a law firm name I didn't recognize. My parents' address printed cleanly across the front. My name was there too. Smaller. Care of. I washed my hands first. That sounds ridiculous, but my palms were sweaty and I needed one normal thing to do. Then I slid a butter knife under the flap and opened it slowly. Inside was a letter addressed to Mark and Diane Hayes. It was not written in a dramatic tone. It was written in the voice of someone who never raises theirs because they do not have to. It referenced an account. It referenced distributions. It referenced requested documentation that had not been provided. It also referenced possible next steps if the matter was not resolved through ordinary channels. I read it twice, then a third time, because part of me still believed I would find a sentence that said this was all a misunderstanding. There was no such sentence. My phone buzzed. Mom. I didn't answer. A minute later, Dad. Then Evan. Then the group chat lit up again. I didn't open it. I just watched the notification numbers climb like they were counting down to something. I called Nina instead. She answered on the second ring. You got a letter, she said, like she already knew. I did, I replied. It's addressed to them. That's typical, she said. It's not about punishing. It's about correcting records. I stared at the paper on my table. The letterhead. The careful language. They're going to say I did this to them, I said. Nina's voice stayed even. They can say whatever they want. You did not create the trail. You noticed it. After we hung up, I took the letter and slid it into my folder behind the tabbed section I'd labeled Audit. The folder didn't feel like a weapon. It felt like a boundary in paper form. That week, I did something I'd been putting off. I opened a new savings account in my name only. No shared access. No linked transfers. I set up an automatic deposit from my paycheck for the certification cost and left the amount small enough that it didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a plan. When the confirmation screen popped up, I took a screenshot out of habit and saved it next to everything else. My mom finally emailed me. Not a text, not a voicemail, an email, because she knew I was keeping records now. The subject line was softer than my dad's had been. Can we please talk? Her message was 3 paragraphs of pain and innocence. She wrote that my dad was barely sleeping. She wrote that I was tearing the family apart. She wrote that Vanessa Pike was not what I thought, and that Evan had needed help at the time, and what were they supposed to do? Let their son drown. She ended with one line that was almost sweet. Just help us get through this, and then we will figure it out. It was the same promise as always, just dressed differently. My dad emailed later that night. 1 sentence. We did what parents do. I stared at that line until the words turned flat. I thought about the way my dad had looked at the restaurant, pale and trapped by a name he couldn't swallow back down. I thought about my mom's voice on that voicemail, using a word like abuse because it was the sharpest tool she could reach. I drafted a reply. I kept it short. I wrote that I would communicate in writing only. I wrote that I was willing to review a repayment plan if it included a full accounting and specific terms. I wrote that I would not send money outside those terms. I read it once, then sent it, then closed my laptop. The next afternoon, there was another knock. I looked through the peephole and saw Evan on my doormat. Jeans. Hoodie. Hands empty. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered, like he was trying to look reasonable. I didn't open the door right away. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. Please do not be cold to your brother. I set the phone down and stood there, listening to Evan's breathing through the door. Claire, he called, voice light. Can we talk like adults? I kept my hand on the deadbolt. Through the peephole, he smiled. It was the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes,